In this presentation, I'll be going into a detailed look of hemophilia, diving into its etiology, the demographics affected, the anatomy, physiology, and symptoms of the genetic disorder, as well as the diagnosis and treatment of it. To start off, I will introduce what hemophilia is. Hemophilia is an uncommon genetic disorder that slows down blood clotting due to a missing or defective protein. This can lead to excessive bleeding compared to healthy individuals, posing a significant risk to those affected. It is a permanent condition, and those who have it likely need medical treatment throughout their entire life. There are three main types of hemophilia, classified as hemophilia A, B, and C, with hemophilia A and B being more common. Both hemophilia A and B are X-linked recessive, passing down from the X chromosome. Affected genes include F8 and F9 respectively for hemophilia A and B, which carry proteins called coagulation factor 8 and coagulation factor 9. However, hemophilia C is passed down differently as an autosomal recessive disorder, affecting F11 carrying factor 11 instead. These disorders usually occur due to point mutations or deletions in the genetic code. AI models are not routinely used in clinics, and risk assessment using machine learning is relatively rare. However, some places, such as the Hemophilia Center of Shiraz University of Medical Sciences, have conducted studies using it to predict inhibitor development in patients with hemophilia A. Results were able to verify that AI could stratify patients into high and low risk groups with good accuracy. The majority of those affected by hemophilia are males due to the fact that the disorder is most commonly X-linked. The CDC states that 30 to 33,000 people are affected by hemophilia A and B in the United States, as well as over a million men across the world having hemophilia A. Female cases are incredibly rare as both X chromosomes would require the recessive gene. However, they can commonly be found as carriers of the genetic disorder. Hemophilia C is much rarer than the previously listed disorders, with only 1 in 100,000 people being affected in the United States. Surprisingly, hemophilia C affects both sexes equally, but it is likely to affect people of Ashkenazi Jewish descent more due to a historically consanguineous community. The physical complications that can arise from hemophilia affects a wide variety of organs and tissues. Commonly affected sites are the liver, load-bearing joints like the knees, as well as the blood itself being at risk. Any injury could lead to bleeding out, as well as internal injuries leading to pulling of blood and swelling of body parts. For example, a bleed in the throat could cause swelling and close the airway, leading to suffocation. The severity of the bleed will determine the threat of the injury. Furthermore, infections could develop from bacteria that enters the bloodstream or even treatments of the condition itself, leading to new potential difficulties. Here I have included a couple more images showing how the pooling of blood may occur within a synovial joint. This is the load-bearing knee, which has the blood pool in and around the joint itself, taking up the space of the synovial fluid. Normally, we would see that the liver is able to form perfectly natural coagulation factor proteins and release them into the blood. However, with hemophilia, it can cause a disruption in the production of this protein, thus resulting in clotting being heavily slowed down after vasoconstriction, as there would be too few to stabilize the platelet plug during a bleed. Prolonged internal joint bleeds can lead to potential bone damage and deformity, causing chronic pain to occur as well as limiting mobility in the affected joint. Bleeding in muscles can develop hematomas, which are pockets of blood in the muscle. And the central nervous system can also be affected when blood pools to cause a rise in intracranial pressure, leading to headaches and, in a more serious note, loss of blood oxygen to the brain. The mortality rate of those with hemophilia varies really with the severity of how they bleed. Genetic variables allow for different people with the same type of hemophilia to have different rates of bleeding from injuries. This graph reflects on the percentages of the population that have severe to moderate to mild hemophilia, with most either being mild or severe. Overall, the total average death rate of those with hemophilia ended up being only 19% higher than healthy individuals. Many different tests can be used to determine hemophilia and its severity. A few to list are as follows: complete blood count tests to fully analyze the blood and its contents, measuring the amount of hemoglobin and the size of red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets in it; complete and partial prothrombin time tests to determine how long it takes to activate blood clotting, as well as clotting factor tests, which determines the overall ability of factors 8 and 9 to determine how strong the coagulation factor itself is. Diagnoses are typically run on those with a family history of hemophilia, as they are the most likely to have the condition. The CDC reports that of those born with hemophilia, only 1 out of 3 babies will have no family with the disorder. For now, the standard method of treating hemophilia is to replace the missing blood clotting factors artificially, as introduced in the anatomy section. However, it is not a permanent cure, and visits to treatment centers will be required to help stopping more complex problems that may arise with the condition. Furthermore, replacement therapy can rarely cause the development of antibodies that attack injected clotting factors, posing a possible risk to the specific method. Lastly, avoiding medicines like aspirin or warfarin, which have properties that naturally slow down coagulation even further, is important to keep in mind. In conclusion, hemophilia is a genetic condition that affects much of the world's population. It has been extensively studied to determine a lot of its key characteristics and the symptoms that arise with it. Future research will likely develop even better ways to treat it, and with the help of AI models, it may even be possible to cure the genetic condition altogether. Its use in gene therapy or modifications to human DNA will need to be continue to be studied and hopefully will yield results later down the line. Thank you.